Hey, welcome. So this is a video that I've actually been wanting to film for quite a while, but I just kept putting it off and off because these stain so badly and it's so hard to like swatch them all in one go that I just couldn't get it all done at once. So anyways, this is kind of an overview of some of the Peripera lip products amongst their line. The reason why I wanted to do this video is because I get confused by all of their like products. They all come in little jars like this, but they've got the Ink Moist, they've got the Cloud Ink Velvet, they've got the Airy Ink Velvet, they've got the Ink Velvet. You know, there's just like so much going on. So I just want to go over the ones I have, the differences, like any differences that are notable to me, and maybe this will help you out in the future. A lot of these stain like crazy, so yeah, excuse me for like swatching kind of weirdly or having patchy lips. Anyways, let's get into it. So the easiest ones to go through that I have are these Ink Airy sticks, and I have the color 02 and 03. They are that kind of like soft velvety matte formula. They are not moisturizing at all. In fact, these products are not that expensive, so I can't fault them too much, but I don't find myself reaching for this formula because it's just drying. It kind of feels like my lips are parched after I put this on, and it can accentuate lines if I have them. So if you're someone with chapped lips, these can look very cute, but I just have like lipsticks that perform better on my poor lips is all that comes down to it. They have like super pretty colors. They're pretty affordable, but they give you that like blurred velvety look, but like the way they achieve that is by kind of having like just a very dry formula. So that's those. Oh, but this color, Pink Milk Tea, is a really good dupe for the Charlotte Tilbury lipstick in Super Cindy, by the way. But since I have Super Cindy, I find myself just wearing that one more. Okay, on to the next one. We can talk about the formula that I'm wearing now, and that is the Ink Moist. I have it in the shade 3. Oh, I also want to include swatches of these because when I buy like any Asian beauty lip product, the swatches are impossible to find realistic ones. You know, I find them to be like really edited, and I'm like, like that's the same lip and you just like Photoshop the colors, so I don't know what I'm getting. So this is the color that I have on right now. It's a bright red. This formula, the first one I tried of these was in 2015 when I went to Korea, and I got this hot pink color and I wore this all the time. I don't know, this color is not flattering, but whatever. It was a trend at the time or something. These last like crazy, like they stain like crazy. This red will last me all day. And even though like right now I just applied this, so there's like a bit of a sheen, and then if I rub my finger across my lips, like there is a little bit of a transfer, but it's kind of just like the moisturizing part of this product that will fade, and then after all that fades, the stain that it has on your skin will last like days if you don't remove it aggressively. So if you want something long lasting but is not like a super drying matte liquid lipstick, these are an awesome choice. I found these to be like much more comfortable when the whole long-lasting trend was a thing, because these are moist. They do have like they're this very wet liquidy formula. You know, they kind of have some juiciness to it. Oh gosh. but you can see there's like some moisture there, and it definitely does make a difference on the lips. This is not a formula that dries down. It's not one of those that tries to make your lips look blurry and velvety or whatever, and it's not necessarily like the most spreadable, so it's not as good for that kind of like gradient lip look or like blurred edges lip look. I don't know what's trendy anymore, but this is really buildable, and the applicator is this nice like paddle with slightly squared edges that I find makes it really easy to apply. And because these I think the colors that come in this range are very like bold, so I think it's perfect that their applicator is a little bit more precise than some of the other ones. Overall, really like it. Like if I were ever to have a long day and I wanted to wear a red lip, regardless of what lip color I might want, I would find myself just like slapping on a thin layer of this first and then putting whatever red I want on top, so then it'll really look like I have red lips that last all day long. Even if the actual lipstick fades away, I'll still have this like red stain underneath. Yeah, I think I'm smart for it. But this formula was the first one I tried and the one that is like still most impressive to me. I think it's like the most versatile, the most long lasting, and like not the least drying out of all of them. So next we can go over this one, the Ink Gelato. This one comes in a very different looking packaging, and it's so interesting because like the actual product is translucent and it looks like this really like bright red poppy orange thing. And you can tell that there's like some translucency to it, but then like when you put it on top of the lips, it's so bold still. And like the color is so intense and saturated. It's such a bizarre product to me because it's like, it's not opaque, but it's so like bright and intense and opaque looking on the lips. It's cool. This one is quite like plush feeling. It is velvety, but not as drying as some of their other like velvety ones. I am extremely pleasantly surprised by this formula. I wasn't thrilled about the colors in this range. They're all like really bright colors like this, which is not my go-to. I can't imagine you could make like a nude version of this sort of formula work though. I don't know. It's really unique and I find it fun to put on, and this color in particular is like this bright orangey red. It's fun. It does stain pretty intensely, like especially if you leave it on for a while. I tried to remove it pretty quickly in my swatches, but you can still see like before I put this one on there was a pretty intense stain, but not nearly as intense as this Ink Velvet one would be. All right, moving on. So I have the Ink Velvet, the Airy Ink Velvet, and the Cloud Ink Velvet, and these are all similar to me. These are the most similar. They all do that like, oh, all of these have like a very sweet candy scent, by the way. So like, these are all supposedly like slightly different formulas, but they all kind of end up looking the same and they feel very similar on my lips. I would say I can't notice any real difference between the Cloud Ink Velvet and the Ink Velvet. It's possible that the formula is slightly more whipped, but after you actually like spread it on your lips and have been wearing it for a while, they're like essentially the same. So this one is the Cloud Ink Velvet, and it comes in this more like squared off paddle, but not really squared off. It still has rounded edges, unlike the Ink Velvet. No, the inky lip. And then the Velvet one has this like just normal looking doe foot applicator. So I think the best way to describe this is that the Ink Velvet lips They have this like thin velvety consistency on your lips, kind of fluffy on the lips. It doesn't really feel like it's like adhering aggressively, it just kind of slides on top. These are all like surprisingly staining for how lightweight they feel, but again, not nearly as staining as the Ink Moist formula. They don't really add moisture to your lips, but in my experience, I don't find these to be like too drying by any means, but they don't add any moisture, that's for sure. They do this really like blurring effect on your lips, which is pretty in some ways. It makes it look like your lips are flawless, whereas with these I found that it would emphasize dry patches. In all three of these, the Cloud, Airy, and just normal Ink Velvet, it like blurred out my lips, so I couldn't really see imperfections, and I just found the color there. And then the Cloud Ink Velvet, I find it's like a more whipped and airy version of the Ink Velvet, where like this feels velvety and plush and kind of soft and blurring, and this one just feels like a little bit more whipped. So when you put it on, it's a little bit more plush, a little bit more soft. But all in all, really, really similar. So I just choose based on the colors that you like. And there are a ton of colors between the Cloud Ink, the Airy Ink, and the Ink Velvet range. That I'm sure there's like something out there that you might like. The Airy Ink, again, is similar to those, but a little bit more lightweight and a little bit more sheer. A little bit more sheer. That's the most noticeable difference. So this one is the Airy Ink, whereas this one is one of the Ink Velvets. This is the Airy Ink Velvets, and you can kind of see my skin peeking out through it a little bit more. And this doe foot is like a little bit fuzzier than the normal Ink Velvet one. Oh gosh, this is so hard. So yeah, it's just like a little fluffier and hairier. But I think it creates a little bit more of that like blurred lip edge look, which you can achieve with the Ink Velvet one if you just kind of like spread it around and like use your finger. But this one, like from the get-go, as you apply it, it lends itself to not creating a super crisp line, just like kind of like a fuzzy line. So it's really convenient for achieving that look. But all three of these formulas apply and spread very easily regardless. Yeah, so in short, oh my goodness, the Ink Velvet is velvety, blurring, not moisturizing at all, and similarly the Cloud Ink has all those characteristics, but is just a little bit more of a whipped formula. So when you first apply it, it feels kind of fluffier, but similar overall. And then I could say the same characteristics about the Airy Ink, except it is just a little bit more sheer, and the application, or the applicator is a little bit fuzzier. That's really all the main takeaways. I hope this wasn't too confusing, because I just kept saying like airy and velvet and moist and ink, but like that's what they decide to name everything. And all of these will have like a distinct layer of pigment that you can kind of wipe away and will transfer. So say you're wearing a mask, if that mask is rubbing back and forth, it'll transfer off and it'll still have this stain that is left underneath. These lipsticks, no stain. All of these, no moisture to them. And I find that the stain that is left behind by all of the Ink Velvet type products is not necessarily the most true to its color It's kind of like generally a more pinky, aggressively pinky version of what you've applied, whereas the Ink Moist is the most different from the rest of these products. It is very liquidy, it is not that velvety whipped formula, and it is a very smooth pigmentation, so it's easy to apply a very even layer. It does add a little bit of sheen, and that sheen can transfer away, but the stain that's left behind is very, very true to the initial pigment that you put on. So overall, it feels the most accurately long wear. Yeah, if you can't tell, I generally enjoy the Ink Moist formula. That's the one that I was most drawn into this line of products by. Like, I'm still, after trying various ones, I'm still the most impressed. I am really into the velvety lip trend. I do like that. And they are still like more comfortable in moisturizing than any like traditional Western liquid lipstick that I've tried. These don't like set and crackle. They remain like a movable and malleable layer on your lips. So in that way, I do find them all to be more comfortable, but they can be like drying still. Yeah, they all stain pretty aggressively, some more beautifully than others, but yeah. I know this was a little all over the place, but I feel like this lip range is a little all over the place. So I hope this was helpful. At the very least, maybe these swatches will be helpful. Let me know. That's really all I have on these products. Yeah, thanks for watching.